Okay.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the February 26, 2025 meeting of the OHPA Port Authority to order. At this time, if you'll please stand and join me in the invocation led by Mr. Mike Paul, followed by the pledge.
Our gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we do have today that you bless us with. We thank you for this great country that we live in. Pray now, Lord, that you would give us wisdom and discernment and make decisions for everything how we work for it. Pray, Lord, that you would be with the other movement of our country and that you would help peace and Israel. And also ask that you watch over and keep our servicemen and women and our first responders and use their saying. Lord, we thank you for all the people. Ask all this in Jesus.
Please hold me the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole,
Here.
Vice Chair Nelson,
Here.
Commissioner Hill, here. Chair Taylor, sorry.
Here, and welcome. We have it's a full house. We saw some chairs stacked up, and I know we pulled out some extra chairs, so everyone had a place to sit. But we're very glad you're here, and hope you enjoy this evening. Welcome, of course, welcome your inputs. This time, if we have any public comments on non-agenda items, you may approach the podium at this time. Anything on non-agenda items? All right. So moving into old business, tab 7. And what I'll do is I'll go down the agenda item and I will ask when we get to that tab if there's anyone who wishes to speak on that item. We have tab 7A, RFQ for legal services. Do we have anybody who wishes to speak on that item? All right. Patrick, I know you were working on putting this together. I don't know if the board has any questions or comments related to the RFQ. I was going to ask you, how long do you think this should run for? I know your time, your 60 days would, if we ran to April, would actually go past that. But I also know that you have agreed to stay on board until we found an attorney. But given enough time, is April 9th, the first meeting in April, is that a fair date? Since that would have to, of course, have time to run publicly before we go back to the board.
It's really up to the board. I mean, I think generally of March 31st deadline is the middle, so if you approve this tonight and you figure it out, quote unquote on the streets, there's a need the Florida bar, various sections of the Florida bar, or municipal attorneys association, places like that within the next week or so. That would be about 30 days to respond. I think that's plenty. It's not that complicated of an RFP. But it's really up to you. I don't think, the 60 days of my contract should really hold you all up and do what you need to do. I'm happy to stay on until you go through this process, but I think a month is plenty of time to respond.
All right, we appreciate that. Any comments or questions from the board? All right, so if everyone agrees to the RFQ in front of us, including the March 31st date, then we will bring this back to our April 9th meeting. Just entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the RFQ.
All right, you have a second? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Patrick, thank you for putting it on and again for staying on board until we get the new person brought on. My pleasure. All right, tab 7B, the RFP for engineering services retainer. Do we have any public comments on tab 7B? All right, so RFP for engineering services. This has been coming to us a few times. I know it's we talked about the importance of the village need for having someone on retainer. Patrick, I know you're working hard to put this together. Do you want to speak to it?
I did a little bit of work on it, put a GIF RFP together, sent it over to the operators, and Greg and his team added some language, finalized it. It's a pretty basic for continuing services, which you all wanted. So the operators chimed in, we chimed in. It's ready for you all to give a nod to, or change if you need.
Do we have any board comments or questions or action?
Yeah, I did have a question about, in the introduction, Chair, about the listed items. Seems pretty broad. It has full engineering, small scale architectural, landscape, facilities, inspections, port and storage, logistics, distribution, environmental, surveying. And I just was curious, like, if the operator could just give us, or Patrick, I don't know what your experience is with these, engineering services RFPs. I think we want it to be broad, but do you have any thoughts about having more specificity, or do you feel like, well, obviously you feel like we've covered all of our bases with this?
Yeah. The chair, my takeaway from the board was we wanted to pieces to tap anything on the shoulder to do any number of things that can come to us. So I added a few of these and then I took the operator added others. Things if you want a firm that's just on retainer when things pop up and want it pretty broad, it doesn't mean have to for control. But I kind of defer to the operator. The expertise and specificity. So it's pretty broad.
So the firm could, maybe do everything except environmental, or, it could, that wouldn't disqualify the firm because you're saying
Correct.
any and all.
Right.
And then other items not listed would be out of scope, or,
Either out of scope or they pose it as something within their purview, like I don't know, it's for the example, the plan, or something like that.
or like something electrical.
Yeah.
Right,
So they may off that.
okay. I don't know what MEP engineering is. No, I don't know what that is.
There you
Okay, so that would be electrical.
go. There.
So hopefully that's defined somewhere. Okay, that was it.
All right, do we have any other board comments or questions or action for the RFP in front of us?
When is the deadline?
We really had a deadline on this one. This is just one that we were putting together just to have.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's
Not a-
completed. Looks like we're missing like contact information.
Yeah, just like administering gas, just because we didn't know when it was coming forward. So if you just specify, how long you want it to be out there, who you want to go to, whether that's for planning or somebody with the operator, that's why I was.
So since it's not time sensitive, would we be okay with 60 days to keep it on the street?
That's all. Yes.
I don't know about if the operator does. I don't know if there's anything looming that they need.
Well, in that case, do you want to bring this back to our next meeting then? And then, well, and Kyle, I don't know if you can really speak to this. Thank you for being here, by the way, but I don't know if you can speak to it, but we could certainly wait until the first meeting in March.
Has-
Uh,
Have you guys already commented to the draft?
Yes, great.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna propose that we go ahead and approve it and then have the deadline be, 60 days, to make Rosanna the point of contact. And I'm prepared to make that motion.
Okay.
Right.
So we have a motion. We'll let this run for 60 days. Rosanna's point of contact. Do we have a second? All right, a few more seconds. All those in favor? All right. Up next is tab 7C, the tariff amendments. Do we have any public comments on tab 7C? All right, now this is, we received the red line version shortly prior to our previous board meeting, so it wasn't really enough time for us to dive in and go through it. But do we have any comments or questions? This is what will be published.
So I did reach out to, our customs broker, one of the customs brokers locally, Orlando, Avila, and I asked just his opinion. He thought, everything looked, he didn't have any particular objections. He did say that in Jacksonville, they publish a one pager. And, he did send that to me. I'm happy to share that, for, for circulation. I don't know that that has to be, approved by the board. Maybe it does, Patrick, but, he said that that was really helpful just as a working document because the tariff is so large that typically the people that are pulling up to the board or doing the day-to-day calculations, working with the tariff, they prefer to see like a quick reference document for like basic line handling rates and the charges that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But he was generally positive about the changes, so that was good.
Yeah, great, right, okay.
But, I didn't catch that, I'm sorry.
The commission name.
Yes, I was gonna get to that. If we need to probably updates, names at the top. What's that?
I'll update you.
All right, any other comments, questions, or action by the board?
I'll make a motion to adopt the tariff, as presented.
All right, so we have a motion to adopt, from Commissioner Hill. Do we have a second?
Okay.
We have a second from Commissioner Moore. All those in favor?
I,
Aye. All right, tab 7D, this is regarding the fabric warehouse. This is fabric warehouse. I know we have, yes, I think we have two comment cards. The first one received will be Mr. Virtue. Welcome back.
Thank you. So I know I spoke about this at the last meeting, but I'm still puzzled by why Nassau Marine Terminals wants to involve OHPA and Coast to Coast in this matter in particular as petitioners. Had the thing progressed as it was scheduled normally, it just was filed in December. And one petitioner that was an empty, OHPA wasn't part of it, Coast to Coast was not part of it. That was to be mediated on January 28th, 2025. Had Tammy Bach not been terminated as city attorney for Virginia Beach, that mediation would have gone forward with NFT as the sole petitioner. So again, it puzzled me. But so the amended petition, if it goes through, the new one, it's dated 2024. So that needs to be updated to 2025. One of my concerns is if you read the amended petition and it's present version, I wonder if it's true. Item 20 reads OPA with NMT acting as its representative, engaged contractor to construct 22,000 square foot warehouse. I don't think that's true. I don't think OPA had anything to do with it. I think NMT took it upon themselves to build the warehouse. And I think OPA was left in the dark. I do think it's important that NMT has agreed to pick up the attorney's costs for OPA, should there be any. But I'm more concerned about the other costs, other potential costs, such as penalties for constructing warehouse without permit. And Fernandina Beach has natural penalties and gas, and has a formula for how much to determine fines. Fernandina Beach has enacted that in gas as well for building without permit. So that indemnity, but I would want, if I were open, the attorney indemnity is greater. That NMT is going to pay for that. That's wonderful. But I would want indemnity to be indemnified against penalties and fines. Since I really wasn't a party to the construction workers. I could see that it intended to defense indemnity letter to coast to coast. I mean, I read that, but I couldn't find the attachment in the damn material for the meeting. So I wasn't able to confirm that the, agreement, the signed agreement is the agreement that's signed by coast to coast. It doesn't really say that the letter talks about. You follow me maybe back one year. So something doesn't seem right to me, and I wonder what an entity's motivation.
Third, my first point, kind of, I found the same thing that Bob found when I was going through the packet. The indemnity letter identifies or references Exhibit A of the agreement, and it identifies the contractor as the sole responsible party for permits and approvals. Now, I couldn't find Exhibit A in there, but I'm going off what that letter says. And if that's the case, doesn't make any good sense to me for OHPA to become a petitioner against the city for either the optics or the potential other ramifications. If I hire a contractor to put addition on my house, and they put the addition on the wrong side of the house, that contractor needs to come back and fix it and take on that full responsibility, and they have to pull proper permits for it. The reason outlined in the draft letter for why the tent should remain in its current location are ad hoc and weak. If the original location that was approved was concerning, it never should have been approved. For the very location reasons that are given now, safety, flooding, etc. If there were new discoveries made that that location was unacceptable, it should have gone through the proper channels and procedures through that and adhere to the conflict and the elements. But when all this effort, it's time consuming, it's costly, and frankly, it's embarrassing for OHPA, who's trying to gain some traction again in their governance. I believe that you guys need to be the governing responsible party for our community and stick to your guns and make the contractor move the tent. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe we have, or Patrick, do you want to speak to this first before I ask the representing attorney to?
Sure. So we spoke about this at the last meeting of what we need to do is polish up a couple of things regarding the agent authorization application that you have in front of you, and the tender defense and indemnification and letter, which we draft. So if you recall, the fabric warehouse was funded in part by a grant with OHPA was the applicant, as they traditionally are. It's on OHPA property. So for a number of reasons that we've discussed previously, and that we are in separate litigation over, OHPA needs to be involved in the operation of the property develops. So that's part of it. The other part of it is that the grant was in OHPA's name, and the contract with the contractor was through the operator playing OHPA's name. I'll let Mr. Becerra speak to the amended petition because he drafted that and with much more information on that. But essentially, what the agent authorization application does is say the port operator represent us at this mediation and try to clear this up as they should and as they should be responsible for. And then the tender defense and indemnifications to the contractor saying if any penalties, if any fines, anything determined that you all did wrong, you owe us that. You owe us defense and indemnity. It's on you. You're the responsible party. So we polished this letter up, added some stronger language. Counsel for the applicant has seen it. It doesn't have any objection to it. So my recommendation is to move forward with it. Certainly, if you'd like to hear more about the amended petition, Mr. Becerra is the man to talk about that.
So, and excuse me, in question regarding coast to coast and the letter to them, would that also you said, I'm sorry, would that also include if the city says, you gotta move this, you gotta put this, in the original location, then they're gonna be responsible
Right.
for doing so?
Any penalties, fines, corrective action, and anything like that on top record. And that is specified in the work agreement, which obviously will be attached, but you've all already seen it. That was part of the contract signed, what they're responsible.
So is there? Thank you, Eric.
Good evening, John and Sarah Rogers Towers, 96015 Gateway Boulevard, Suite 203, Fernandina Beach, Florida. And as mentioned, we represent the National Marine Terminals of the petition. I would echo everything Patrick had to say, with regards to, the comment made tonight. I'd also add that it's statutory requirement, property owner requirement petition, so it's very important you have a seat at the table. What Patrick mentioned as far as indemnities, as we understand it as well. And so I, I believe that nobody's the party to both statutorily and reinstated, coast to coast is being brought in so they can understand what's going on and consent to any immediate settlement may occur. We won't have pushback from them that they won't, they object to an agreement we make. So yeah, the agreement should be part of the mediation and discussion, and that's all that's required as a seven.
Well, and yes, it's our land, it's our property. So absolutely, I understand that. But again, this goes back to the issue we talked about having several months ago. That it's kind of gotten us roundabout way where we are now. So it's frustrating getting kind of brought into it. But again, I do understand, I do agree because it is our property, it is our land. So do we have any comments, questions regarding this item from the board?
So Patrick, will you be attending the proceedings?
If that's the direction for us. I don't know this schedule that, but the city's for a lawyer,
Probably next week.
I'm sorry.
We have a number of schedules that have to be arranged. We can't schedule the date the petition is filed. But I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the petition. The whole idea of this is to resolve it. Trying
Comments, questions, action?
if you were to take action on uh the agent authorization act is separate from the living letter, they're two different lines of work.
So first, the
indemnity letter?
yes,
I'll make a motion on the indemnity letter to adopt the indemnity letter as drafted and to direct Chair Taylor to sign said letter on behalf of OPA.
okay. So we have a motion regarding the indemnity letter. We have a second, Patrick?
Just to be clear, current dignity letter is drafted on my first letter, my signature. You want to change that to the chair?
Nope, I will amend my motion to be your signature, so you don't have to update the draft.
Okay, just want to make sure it's clear.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so motion passed on the indemnity letter. All right. Now regarding the agent authorization, do we have any?
I did have a question
Yes.
about that. So it says that Rogers Towers is exclusively representing Nassau Marine Terminals and does not represent OPA in any legal capacity in the proceedings, and that Nassau Marine Terminals agrees to pay OPA's reasonable attorney's fees related to attending the described proceedings. I appreciate that because we would want legal counsel representing us at the proceedings. And then OPA agrees to send the letter to coast, which is what we just voted on. So I'm just curious, like, would this prevent Rogers Towers from representing OPA in any future proceeding?
I think that would really depend on the point, like future would be one, whether That's the terminals considered to be a conflict. I don't see anything there should remove conflict between the process, just to make sure everybody was crystal clear on, what the relationship's going forward.
I guess what I'm trying to understand is we're not adverse parties in this matter. Okay, okay. So I just wanted to be clear that we are not adverse to Rogers Towers and we are not adverse to Nassau Marine Terminals in this matter.
And frankly, right now, we're not adverse to coast.
Right,
That could happen, but currently, we only have those partners in the city.
right. Okay. I'll make a motion to adopt the agent authorization updated as presented.
All right, do we have a second?
Okay.
A second from Commissioner Moore. Any further discussion?
I did want to address the comments that Mr. Virtue made. When the warehouse was, when it was brought to my attention that the warehouse was being constructed in its current location, I was the chair and I went to, to North Third Street. I observed the warehouse. I was on the phone most of that day talking to Patrick. I talked to Greg about the fact that it was in the wrong location, that we had not actually approved that location as a board, and advised Nassau Marine through Greg that they would proceed at their own risk. And they told me that again that they located it in that spot for logistics purposes. The warehouse helps to serve our forestry products, which cannot get wet. The port is a forestry product port, which means water is the enemy for most of what's moving through the port. So covered storage is the way we're going to move goods through that port. So it is important to get it built and to put it in the right place. The process, I know, is frustrating for the community and for this board that the process was not followed and that this board didn't have the opportunity to review all that information. And it's possible that we would have voted in favor of that location, but if a permit had been applied for, we would have discovered some of the other potential objections regarding setbacks and whatnot. So I just want you to know you're heard, Mr. Virtue, and that the neighbors you all are heard. I believe that this aspect of the process is necessary in order for OPA to fulfill our obligations to the operator under the operating agreement, because this is part of their administrative appeals process where they are with a built warehouse, and that I'm not going to insist on punitive measures for the operator for this misstep. I believe they are paying dearly for that mistake, representing having the representation that the first class representation that they do. Which thank you, John, for being present, Mr. Lassier for being present today. That's all. That's all I have to discuss. I'm ready to vote.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to approve. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
All right.
All right. I'll get you to clean it up.
All right, thank you. All right, tab 7E, the port priority list for 2025. We do have again, Mr. Bob Virtue would like to speak on this item. Mr. Virtue, welcome back.
I offer you 424 North Third Street, Vernon Beach. Just 2 points. One, it says 2024 in the list of our projects. I was wondering if it was supposed to be 2025. I'm not sure.
It's last year's list.
It's last year's.
It's being updated.
So is there a list for this year?
That would be this year's list with the additions
In the bottom.
on the bottom with the crane refurbishment, the seawall project, and the structural repairs.
So can I assume that when it comes to the item it talks about storage and transit, that that's already built? Or are we talking about the possibility of new storage facilities?
Kyle, do you want to speak to that, or do you have information to speak to that? It'd be the addition of new covered storage transit facilities, line 3.
Yeah, so I actually am the sponsor of this item.
Oh, I'm
the
sorry,
rep-
Mr. Hill, I'm sorry.
So TPO updates this list every year. And this list is really just us letting TPO, the Transportation Planning Organization, of which OPA is a Nassau County represented board member. We have 2 seats from Nassau County, one from the county commission, Clint Farmer, and then myself with the Port Authority. And through the TPO, the FDOT budget is approved for our entire region. And so this is an opportunity for Nassau County to list authority-related projects that might potentially request FDOT funding or other funding. And we can just point to this list to say, when we apply for a grant from the federal government, we can say we have included that project on our list to TPO, which just illustrates that we are being consistent with what our goals are over a 5-year period. So annually we update the list, but anything that appears on this list could be a project at any time in the next 5 years.
So with that in mind, let me say one more thing, and that is, I just hope that Nassau terminals, if there is going to be additional still covered storage available on the portal site, I hope that the NMT does due diligence so that we don't have to go through the fiasco we went through for the last 2 years, where a fight was proposed by NMT, approved by OPA, and then unilaterally by NMT moved and construction somewhere else. For the great way that the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I could speak for this board, and I would even think the operator that we've kind of learned a valuable lesson in this. So yes, we're gonna if something like that comes up again, we'll have close eyes on it. Thank you.
Thanks.
So this is an action item, just for the board to have the consensus. I don't think we have to have a vote. And the order of the projects doesn't indicate at all any sense of priority of one or the other.
Okay. So we have a board consensus on this. So, any comments, questions? All right.
I think what we're finalizing. As we go through this, probably very much the additional public storage and storage in 2025. And we've got been a long rotation of that. That to suggest that we move to line by line and determine here.
I can.
I'll recommend that we move to line by line and to determine what we're 2025.
Okay. Certainly, we can get through that. Is there anything specific? And I'm sorry, I was it was a little hard to hear. Is there anything specific you were looking at? Or
I believe that the operator is applying for potential grants, looking for additional storage. So it's not. So
Is the other one that? Just one more? I don't know.
Yeah, so my understanding in talking with Greg about this list, we've only talked like very limited. I just sent him the list, he provided the responses, and then we talked on the phone for less than 5 minutes. But my understanding is that there are occasions where we have full warehouses of paper products. and forestry products. And we're waiting for, a ship to go out, waiting for, goods to move, and then we'll have everything leave and a lot of availability, but we have those pinch points. So I think there is a desire to optimize the existing space, but also to potentially pursue other covered storage opportunities, whether that's within the existing footprint or outside of the current city of Fernandina Beach port facilities that the operator is looking to other off, like near port and out in the county outside of the existing industrial footprint. And so they're exploring all of those options. But again, this list is not projects that are shovel ready for the current year. This is our this is going to be our 2025 wish list for the next 5 years. So we update it annually, but it's a rolling look forward for the next 5 years for our priority projects.
Any grants or anything related to any item on this list would be 2 to 5 years out. I mean, the grant process from the time of application to the time of actually receiving a grant is at least 2 years.
I was actually going to suggest that we don't number the cranes, that we just list generally like crane refurbishment, but I wasn't being picky, so.
And I'm working. Same. I'm just working, Chris.
Okay.
Commissioner Moore, did that help?
Yeah.
All right. So any other comments or questions regarding the priority list? All right. So moving forward, so we discussed, the idea came up at our last meeting, regarding the lots that we do have, and people parking on those lots, and the idea of maybe putting up some no parking signs, especially around the shrimp festival that will be coming up in the next few months. There was an idea that was thrown out last year, kind of revisited the last meeting, regarding using it as a paid parking just for the shrimp festival, and using it to support a nonprofit or possible international maritime celebration for the folks who work out at the Port of Fernandina. Was there any more thoughts or comments? We still have it on the agenda just to kind of keep it alive, because we know that, again, with Shrimp Festival being May, first weekend in May, we wanted to kind of keep this fresh. So any comments, questions? If there's anyone from the public as well who would like to speak to this, you're welcome to.
Live there, 432 North Third Street, Pennsylvania Bay. You have lived has been caution for the last 20 years. The board, has been very friendly to park. It's very nice to have this close to the law. I know that you do the same. I mean, it's just a empty lot. And there's an empty lot right across the street from my house. And cars pull in there, park, and then leave. The same thing with the building over there on Saturday and Sunday, people park in that paved parking lot in Lake. It's just been very friendly. And I think it's very helpful because the parking is very scarce, and that's not looking out all these signs just seem to me to be very unfriendly, nothing like it has been in the last 20 years.
Yeah, no, and thank you for bringing that up. This is really focused around Shrimp Festival, and so when you're driving downtown during Shrimp Fest, as you know, there are people have lots that they're selling, parking for the day for $20-25+ with those proceeds going to a local nonprofit, whichever nonprofit they choose. That's really where this idea came from. I think the no parking sign came up recently. That's my understanding, the last meeting, and then we kind of just went a step further and said, well, hey, instead of the no parking signs, what if we open this up to pick a nonprofit? And we have to decide on first who that would be, or an opportunity to use it to raise money to kind of give back to the community, so to speak. So it's not, I wasn't looking at it. I don't know if we were all, I wasn't looking at it as a, let's put no parking signs and have that up there year round. No, not at all. But something just during that 2, 3 day weekend window, that was really
Well, and I did, just a few days ago, I sent a little note to, copied Rosanna, to Kyle and Greg and Virginie, just asking if, if Savage was interested in partnering with OPA to, manage the parking for the Shrimp Festival. And I think we could cover costs if employees are, volunteering to do that, if they get an hourly rate or something. I think we could cover the costs, but whatever proceeds, we would want that to go to some sort of like community benefit, whether, one of the ideas I had, and I don't know if I raised this at the last meeting, is a maritime or logistics scholarship. NASA Education Foundation offers scholarships countywide, and they would be a great partner to, that we could fund a scholarship opportunity for a Nassau County student interested in logistics or trade, or a maritime career. They also fund unique, teacher-driven projects in the classroom that engage students. They have robotics programs where they can tap into other federal and state funds, to do, enrichment opportunities within the classroom and try to build that pipeline of interest in the port. And that goes a long way for helping the community and building rapport, but also building a pipeline of, young minds that want to be in the port and maritime fields. So, I, for one, would support using the proceeds for something like that. But it's, if there is a capacity, if you feel like your workforce is already, fully engaged and we don't have the capacity to deal with that, then that's a different story. We'd have to find some volunteers or, it's OPA's property. So OPA can do what we will with those lots, right? Like we can manage this on our own. We can reach out to another nonprofit in the community. But I think our mission really as an organization is, economic development and the port and bettering the county, right? Making decisions in the best interest of the county. So it needs to be something aligned to OPA's core mission. So we haven't heard any feedback from y'all if you want to partner, but Shrimp Fest is right around the corner.
So like sound like a good idea. The challenge we have today is thing that far out because of the way our systems change. I mean, we're going to go up into this. So what we need to see is our team even that all the part. But I mean, I think it's a bigger issue. Yeah. Just for our challenge.
Yeah, so I think we should do that. Thank you for clearing the air, but that's probably not something Savage would want to partner on. So I'd be happy to try to trace that down, or Justin, if you, I'm sorry, Chairman, Taylor, if you have, ideas about who could kind of carry that to.
I think, I know this kind of being your, you bringing this up last year, if you want to run with it. I like your idea of, again, the Education Foundation. I actually serve on that nonprofit board. I'm president-elect of that nonprofit board.
Sounds like another to-do item for you.
So I kind of I think I wrote myself into that. No, that's something that I can certainly bring up and we can discuss. But yeah, I think it's a great idea.
I'm happy to volunteer that weekend.
Yeah.
Not the whole weekend, but, if we can come up with some blocks of time, happy to help.
I think volunteering would be, I mean, that's something that we can certainly kind of put together. But yeah, so I'm still gonna keep it on here just so we can have an update at the next meeting. But no, again, it's a great idea. And is there any other board comments regarding this idea?
Yeah,
from a certain amount in the side, you soon. OHPA is the part humans. Again, the part we want to we how to do that. Yeah. In the pocket. You know, that we want to potential.
Any other board comments or questions?
So, Patrick, you mentioned a, like a liability disclaimer, but when I've parked down at the school, like the superintendent's office on Atlantic, I don't think they're even giving people tickets to park. They're just taking their money and letting them park.
That's why it's, I'll look into it. I think at a minimum to get insurance carrier to acknowledge this is okay. Because I think you're exposed with no coverage for something that, I mean, something like this. So I would want to confirm that coverage just to operate something on those parcels, which I'm expected to do it. I don't think that that's going to be a no. I don't want to say anything right now because I don't have an answer. I'll look into it, but I think if you're taking an exchange, you're taking consideration for somebody putting their personal property on your property, there is liability. And just hand them a ticket waiver that says you're not responsible for somebody breaking into their car, that kind of thing. It's pretty simple. That's what it's on. We don't really do ticket stubs anymore, but that's what's on the back of most ticket stubs, right? So I'll just have one of my associates take a quick look and see if there's something you can just hand to somebody. They give you 10, 20, whatever you're in charge, and they can give them a stub that says, at a minimum, that they're responsible for their personal property. I never really like to talk about that, but that's my job. And
So, all right, so moving down to tab 8A, this is the OPA property sale. We have two speakers. Mr. Virtue. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And while we're, I know we had an amendment to it, so I think Rosanna, is that what you're pulling up? Mr. Virtue?
Virtue, 424 Bird Street, Vernon Beach. Scott felt like he must have walked those properties if you know about the whole. And Kyle, we're off the hook, because this says only to do with Oklahoma. So I think the brokers were of and it's in item number 14, I think, in the listing agreement, talks about 50-foot wide homes, detached single family homes. And I'm okay with that. But what you'll notice is when we have an offer come in, those restrictions no longer apply if the property is resold. And that's why I put a proposal. I know Jim is going to talk about it as well. The deed restrictions to 50-foot wide lots and the single detached family homes, we think it needs to be filed with the county as a deed restriction. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Tammy Kosak. Welcome back.
Several of you remember the many hours and meetings and years that we've been discussing the community and OPA, those lots for all sorts of different reasons. And even just a few years ago, we had large community meetings when the chair was, Danny Goldwood. The newspapers were involved, the community was involved, and the crux of it was the probably 99% consensus of the community said we didn't want those lots sold. We were hoping that they would be developed into a true buffer, just like it says in our land development codes, of getting our Kent situation handled, where there's supposed to be a 30-foot landscape buffer between any industrial and the historic district. We were hoping for a community park or some sort of vegetated buffer. Being that that was not the direction that the previous commission was going, we said if these lots are to be sold, we request single-family homes, unattached, 50-foot lot minimums, and have that as a deed restriction. And I have it from our meetings and in emails from the previous chair that that would be the case. Now, it's great that it's in the listing agreement, and they're saying, you know, up to 3 homes can be built. However, because it's not a recorded deed restriction, anybody can come in and purchase all 6 lots and put up 6 tiny homes. They can put up, this is for our code, for our zoning, for our, they can put up townhomes, they can put up duplexes or triplexes. That all fits within our zoning. That doesn't fit within our historic district. Having said that, so the ask is that if these remain for sale, that the deed restrictions that were agreed to and voted get reported at the county level, because again, anybody can come and buy, hang on to it, and then turn around and sell it, and whatever's in the listing agreement is gone. Having said that, when I looked at the packet last night, and I found out the next agreement, or the current agreement is for, if you do go ahead with the sale, I would advocate for these buyers because they already live in the area. They've been living there for a year. They know the conditions that they're entering into. It'll save you a whole lot of headaches. So people go anything about trucks, traffic, noise, because they're right there. And so I don't know which way we're going to go on that. But if you're going to sell it, I think it's a good offer. It needs to be great people who still need deed restrictions recorded. So if they sell or decide not to build or do something, we're protected. So I'm just asking for a little bit more protection for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cosat. Patrick, regarding the recording of the deed restrictions, how do we go about doing that? Just
And it's really neat that close to that end part. So, you know, agreeing to, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but agreeing to the contracts, so that you want language in there, that's what we're going to do, is what we're going to require, and disclosing it when deed restrictions, drafting, executed, recorded, at the closing. Commissioner Hill called me about this. I was hesitant to go through this thing with fine tooth comb because I always know that there's a concern over expenses and fees. There are parts of this contract that I have problems with, but I wanted to get feedback on the board before I did any significant work on it. The only other thing I want to say at this time is just the posture you're in. You're not in a posture where you have to agree to this, where you can't negotiate or you can't counter, you can't even just say we don't want this particular deal. The vote, the previous vote of the board was to list the property. It wasn't to enter into any given contract in something away. There's also some language in the contract that requires them open to do certain things to the property. I would advise against that. That puts the burden of expense and time and approvals on you, and that should be on part of the buyer. Again, I have not gone through the fine tooth comb because I didn't have direction to use it this way.
okay. So I know we have seen the agreement contract. I do want to give an opportunity for Mr. Griffin to come up and speak to the contract that he has received for the property.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Phil Griffin, 608 South 8th Street, Virginia Beach, 32034 William. What you have before you tonight is an offer to purchase. We had a listing agreement that was agreed to, what kind of terms you were looking for. And so at this point, you have an offer And I'll just, if you like, I'll just take a minute to summarize what the basic things are, and then Mr. Kachowski can always do a legal thing there. But basically, it's a cash sale. The offer is for $265,000. You put a $2,500 binder down, and that is subject to refund if for some reason during their due diligence inspection period, which would be for 15 days. If they find that there's something not going to suit their needs, then they would get the refund and the contract would be terminated. So in 15 days, they'd probably go to the city, verify that the zoning is correct, that whatever they want to build, that it's built more than and all that. And that's also a time for discussion about any kind of restrictions that the open might want to put onto the property. The thing would be closed on March 27th. Everything moved according to plan. And then as far as the closing costs, there is no finance contingency. That's on line 56. They may assign the contract, but not be released from liability. And that's just in case they wanted to. A lot of times the seller said, oh, what's kind of funny business is this? But basically it allows them to put it into a family trust or something of that nature. But it would have to be something that's related to themselves. And then on the closing costs, on paragraph 8, they're asking that the seller pay the title insurance costs and get the property surveyed. And the reason for that is that what you have is a raw piece of land, essentially. You have 6 legal lots of record that everybody agrees that we don't want to argue with the city attorney the beach about going back to the 150-year-old lots. So it was kind of agreed in the listing phase and now in the purchase and sale phase that we would honor an agreement with the city, I believe, for 3 50-foot wide lots. And so this would be a good time for OPA to, even without this contract, without any contract, if that's truly what we want to do, I would recommend that OPA engage a local surveyor, create 3 legal lots of record that we can offer for sale. We're offering it as a package deal, but that still goes hand in hand with 3 single-family homes on 3 single-family 50-foot wide lots. So whether it's the Jerome's that we're purchasing the property or the developer or builder, the rules that we understood would be the same. So I would highly recommend that OPA get a survey that's suitable to them that creates 3 lots of record. And then we have 3 legal descriptions. So this is why on page 1, you'll see that I put a portion of this lot. And then on page 6, we've got that the seller is going to create a legal lot of record. Because right now we have lots 14 and 15, but they're all hooked in on one legal parcel they need. And then on the last page, the last thing we have there is the buyer is acknowledged. I think Mr. Kachowski asked me to do something of this nature, saying that the buyer acknowledges, agrees that this property is located adjacent to and in the general vicinity of Port Fernandina Beach, which is an active industrial facility. Buyer has satisfied themselves as to the nature of the adjacent property, confirms that it has no objection thereto, and the buyer agrees that it takes to and in favor of the seller, have no claim against the seller for damages by reason of such inconvenience. And that was to not have somebody buy the property and then become your worst enemy and start claiming it was too noisy or things here. But they didn't know there was an industrial facility next to it. Anyway, that's the offer that's before you. I'm here to amend it. We can always add I don't think the buyers are here, right back here. I think they and any other buyer that I bring to you will, will need to, 1, agree that it's a J report and they're not gonna have an issue. And then 2, I think they're all gonna be, I know they're all gonna be single family houses that'll be on there. So this is a good time to do the survey, slice up the 3 lots, and then put that deed restriction on each and every one of those lots. And the reason I would do it that way and have you do it ahead of time is that down the road, we sell lots 14 and 15 and lots 13, 12 and 13. And you decided you wanted to have the other part for the city park or, something comes along, you can bifurcate the lots and do what you want with each one, rather than do one parcel if we have right now. So anyway, that's my recommendation. I'm here listen to anything you might have or answer any questions.
Okay, first, I was good. So before we do questions, I just wanted to turn it back over to Patrick. If he had any comments or questions regarding that, then we can ask Mr. Griffin any questions.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Griffin's correct. Your intention is to sell each of these as individual developable lots for a single family home, then you may want to do the work ahead of time. Every previous discussion I've heard is, this is the piece we want to sell. And I've never heard any discussion of this board about selling them one at a time, two at a time, three at a time, because we're going to sell this piece, we're going to put these deed restrictions on it, and whoever buys this piece can do what they want within those deed restrictions, within the city code and all of that. So he's not incorrect. It's not that we differ, it's just that the approach from the board is being this big chunk we're going to sell and not, do the work ahead of time to divide them up into developable lots. So,
All right, any board comments?
Oh, we're looking at about probably $1,000, $1,200. So $300 to $400 per lot. And usually they'll write up a legal description with that. And not usually, they always will write up a new legal. And then we could bring a contract like this. Right now, the economy has been good. It's slowed up a little bit, but who's to say, we don't have a recession next month and you sit on these for another 5 years. So it's up to you whether you want to wait for one buyer that comes along. Typically, my experience has been a developer, a builder is going to be looking for a deal and you're probably going to get a lot less money than you are from an individual buyer who wants to build a custom home than a builder that is just looking to make a profit. They're going to knock up 3 houses to get as much as they can.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was my understanding also. And then I was looking at the settlement statement, doesn't list any of those costs, like those are basically just advanced costs, because you have like the title insurance, but you have zero, but they are wanting us to pay the title insurance.
No, so let me pull that up. I did not print a copy of it, but I have it here. So got the seller typically pays the dock stamps on there. Yeah, so on this one,
I mean, it's just nothing for title. But so since you're recommending that OPA like take it upon ourselves to subdivide underlying lots of record, do you have an example where you've done that in the city of Fernandina Beach? And could you give us like an address we could look it up to verify what the cost would be?
yeah, well, I'm doing that just up the road at 205 14th Street. We're creating 2 legal lots of record there. I think the survey cost for that it's 86 by 200 feet right now, and we're splitting it into 2 lots record, almost identical size. I think the surveys and the legal description could be 950 for the whole thing. That's for 2 lots.
And that's with the recording with the city too.
Yeah, so we're gonna take it to a local title company and get recorded and closing as that. But it's pretty routine.
Are you other questions, comments, or action?
I think we proceed with, setting up the survey and moving forward with this.
So your motion is to move forward with the sale.
With the sale.
In addition to, you're adding in there that we would also go through and do the survey.
Go ahead and do the survey.
Split the lots. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Um, well, do we have any discussion?
Oh, yeah. So we agreed as a board, the board consensus was to list the property for sale. And then now it's up to this board to be responsible for every decision we make after that decision was made. And it's clear to me that the board doesn't want to undo that initial decision to list the property for sale, but I think it would be a disservice to our overall revenue and interest and the county and the public's interest to sell off, to subdivide lots, because if we commit to this one purchaser that we're going to sell them these lots, then we may be left with a remainder that's not marketable. I haven't even seen any sort of estimate of the overall cost of that until we hear it here at the meeting. That's not listed here on this statement. And I don't believe, just observing what's happened with other development projects within the city when property owners are attempting to subdivide lots within the historic district to develop them, that it's just going to be a simple process. 14th Street's not in the historic district. This is within the historic district. It's zoned residential. So it's going to go through every single possible hurdle that you can develop land in Nassau County. This is the hardest land to develop, is historic district land. And we're going to now subdivide a piece of it and just sell off a piece of it. And we're going to agree that we're going to do all the pre work to make sure that the lots are marketable. And we're going to subdivide them. I think that's a terrible idea. Like all you have to do is read the newspaper and see what's happened to everyone else who's tried to do that. It's not cheap. All right, so I'll vote no.
Any other comments or questions? All right, so first want to say I'm glad that Ms. Kosak was advocating for Mr. and Mr. Rome. They live nearby, so they do. They understand kind of what they're getting into. This is in no way, and I said this when we listed the property, in no way a reflection on Mr. Griffin. Again, I'm going to stand by. We have a perfectly good piece of land that we have. It's an asset. We should not sell it. And so, again, it's not a reflection on you. I've said this in every other meeting. It's not a reflection on Mr. Rome, but I'll be voting no as well for this. All right. Any other discussion?
Um,
Yeah, how about car insurance? Yeah, car. Um, Well, we were,
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing. I've been asked to, and we'll talk about this later in the meeting, for applications for grants for projects at the port. And I understand there are some members of this board that believe that land should be sold in order for OPA to be able to make investments at the port. The operations of the port shouldn't require us to sell off capital assets. It shouldn't. And the operator sees a good value in matching grant funds and investing in the port, and even sometimes doing investments without a grant match, because it just makes more sense for them to go ahead and deploy the capital to make those investments. And I see that happening every day when we're talking through grants, we're talking through projects. I see capital getting deployed. And I know there's a lot of small fixes that haven't happened, but there are some big investments that have been made, and that hasn't required OPA to sell land. And so I'm going to be going to our congressman and to our county and to our city and asking for letters of support for these major infrastructure projects. And when I do that, all of those elected representatives are going to look me square in the eye and say, why is OPA selling land? And I want you to tell me what I should say to them.
I think we're gonna be this horse to death. And here we go again. I say that there's a motion on the floor. We go ahead and we vote this. We wasted enough time. I mean, if people want to put their faith and trust in Savage moving forward, that's your call. We're 5 individual commissioners. We all have our convictions. You go ahead and you do what you gotta do, but I'm telling you right now, it's not a bad deal. It was mentioned in this meeting. This is a fair offer. I said from the day that I walked in here as commissioner, I would be in favor of selling one piece of property. That's it. One. Haven't changed, but other people have climbed back up the ladder and sit down and climb back up. I'm not doing that. I'm here stating what I stated the very first day I was commissioner. It's not a bad deal. We need some kind of substance. We've already committed to the neighborhood that we will not make any kind of advanced movement outside of the footprint that we're in right now. We committed that to them. We've met with the neighbors. We've all contracted that. We talked about it. Here we are going down that same road. We need to move forward with this deal. It's a good deal. It will give us the ability to have sustainability. We had some issues at our last meeting talking about a shortfall. I'm not saying that we take that money and just spend it crazy. I've said all along, we need to put it in an account where it's controlled by unanimous consent of this board on anything that it's spent. If it's not unanimous, it don't get spent. But you've got to be a good steward of what you have. We can't go outside of your footprint, so what are you going to do? Let it sit out there and we just pay a landscape for the moment. I've said my piece.
All right, any further discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote on this one. Commissioner Moore,
Hey,
uh, Commissioner Cole.
Yeah.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
No,
and I'm no as well. Was that, Commissioner Moore, can you clarify your vote?
no,
No? Okay. So, the motion to sell fails, 3-2 vote. So at this point, we need to, I guess, clarify our direction for Mr. Griffin, because we do have a listing up. So I think I think that point, if we're saying that the sale is the full lot, we're not splitting it, then I think that would be the direction. Do we have any thoughts, concerns? Mr. Griffin, any comments?
with, I mean, you'd have 100 by 100 lot left, and $250,000 in the bank, but, if you took this, but I guess have 150 instead. If you can't use it, my thought as a real estate broker would be, how much is it earning you today? I mean, I'm going to get a couple $100 for parking on Shrimp Fest, but if it's costing you money and you can't develop it as an asset, or I don't know why anyone want to keep it, but that's your decision to make. We'll wait until we get a buyer that wants to buy all free. As far as the minor subdivision splitting that Ms. Hill was referencing, I've met with Kelly Gibson at the city. I don't think there'd be much of an issue or much of a cost to go through this process. And if we want to put that on the buyers or raise the price a little bit, have that done. I'm just saying that if you know that you've agreed with the neighbors, that you've agreed with the city, and you've agreed as a board that you're going to sell it, but only allow 3 single family houses, 3 50-foot lots. I think if you get the survey done, you get the lot split, and you get a deed restriction on each individual lot that says you can only build a 50 by 100, a single family house on a 50 by 100 lot. You're already ahead of the game. So you'd be putting money in the coffers sooner rather than later. Because most likely the next offer we have, if it's for all 3, will probably be at a lower price per lot. Or, they'll want more time to study it and do all the stuff that has to be done to develop lots like this. So, but whatever the board decides, I'm good.
Patrick Griffin.
I was just gonna say, we can do some simple work, if you want to find out from the city what exactly the fees, the cost of splitting and either get it forward, either. I don't think Mr. Ritter's numbers are off on a survey, it sounds about right. If you're more interested in what is the process of the city, what's that gonna cost you to do that? Well, I think you can find that out.
You made a better job. You're, doing that. You're more, you're the for the child, right? Or we agree, we agree to, I'm over there, want to see the board return to the meeting, you know, I didn't really selling, these properties. Handles that. But I also didn't believe that going back to the decision that it's made by the before for you. That's what I heard today. Going forward, we sale of the entire parcel. You come back and go to the decision made by. And then you come.
Capacity or the wherewithal, are willing to do it, but certainly get with them, within a few days to discuss it and see if we come back, and if not, I'll bring another. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good night.
So, Chair, may I just make one more comment?
Please.
Um. So I just wanted to speak to the comment. I just wanted to speak to the comment earlier that this parcel doesn't provide a value to the port. It's curious to me why all of the other industrial property owners within the city and the county, they seek to acquire other land surrounding their operations. There are huge swaths of property. Go on the property appraiser's website and look and see what Container Corporation owns. Every time they have the opportunity to buy a house, they buy a house and they will let it sit there empty so that there isn't another neighbor. And I appreciate these individuals coming from the community and willing to purchase this lot. It's nothing against you. I also live in District 1. I'm less than a mile from the port. But as a responsible port operator, we should have buffers. We should have land surrounding our entrance. We're talking to Tammy Kosak just in this very meeting about queuing issues. And she's emailing the board pictures of trucks queuing. Those trucks will be passing that property every single day. And then whatever house is built will now be a buffer between Tammy's house and the trucks. So instead of Tammy calling me, it'll be whoever's house is right there. So it's just practical. It makes no sense to me to build houses right up to the gate of your port. And to say that there's no value in owning that land, you'd have to stick your head in the sand.
Who's saying there's no value?
He said, Mr. Griffin said from the podium that it's not providing any revenue to the port. It's not providing any value.
Providing any revenue. Doesn't mean it's not valuable.
It does provide value.
I mean, you can look at the price that they're willing to pay. And there's been other houses. If you're going east on Dave Street, I can name 3 or 4 houses that have been recently built in it. So yeah, there is value.
Yes.
Wow.
All right.
There seems to be, it's always been when we're asking, it's going to be a new government, they're really pushing to the city department.
I can't hear you.
There seems to be a easy button, could push. Tom here, couldn't find.
I know I know they know about it. So I would think that with that, if they see interest in that or see, value as far as a park or a buffer or something along those lines, just something to conserve and, just have the empty lot, that they would consider, and they would come to us. Um, but that hasn't happened yet.
So I know that when we were negotiating the pilot payment, the city wanted to use that $50,000 as soon as we voted to cut them a check. They, at their next meeting, made a motion and passed a resolution to use that funding into their conservation plan. So I don't think it's a bad idea to just to raise that to the city as an idea.
All right, so moving on to tab 8B. Florida Ports Council event. So Florida Ports Council, they're hosting a 2025 DC fly-in. We all received an email from, Christy regarding that. And so Rosanna added it to the agenda. Commissioner, Moore is our representative on the Florida Ports Council. So I believe it was added for discussion about, um, possibly sending him to the fly-in. There's a cost associated with that. It was $309 a night, so 2, 3 nights. Do math, but, I don't know what the cost would be associated with being there, meals, so on and so forth. And I don't know if that's even something that we have budgeted, to be able to do. But wanted to just talk, get board, thoughts, maybe thoughts from Commissioner Moore regarding this item.
Yeah, I'm certainly willing to do. That's where I'm at. Maybe that could be a part of the call. Return. And then if you want to buy, I mean,
Yes.
now, is this their annual waterfall council meeting, or is this just something else?
No, thank you for asking. There are two separate events here that I just wanted board consent to send Commissioner Moore. The other one is their annual spring meeting in Tallahassee. So,
Well, I haven't attended the council meeting previous year. I know the city is really by that. That's not. So I'm not. We're going to see or what? In the music is better. That will. So you have an you're really in the, this, I don't.
I was the last representative to FPC, and then Shannon Taylor was representative for at least one of the meetings. And what I advocated for, we would send delegates, we would send the port director. And as a board member, I never really heard much about what happened until I was the one who attended. And so just for continuity, and because all the other ports send their actual director, who is their staff person, who is the same face meeting after meeting and is the delegate and is the liaison, I advocated for Rosanna to attend the local meetings in Tallahassee or in Pensacola or wherever they're holding the Florida annual meeting. Usually there's 2 meetings a year. So to have a board member and to have Rosanna attend, it's 2 people driving or carpooling together. and then 2 rooms, and that's our budget. So we'd have to pretty much double our budget to send someone to this. And,
Just overnight.
and I really think we need to have a consistent base for OPA. So if we're rotating the position among board members, there isn't that much value to sending me or any other commissioner. It's really the value of sending, frankly, Rosanna. But unless we have like a specific legislative priority, I wouldn't say that DC is that important, as much fun as it would be.
Look like the easy flying, Florida, Florida, of course, town, Florida, legislation, for a meeting.
So I don't disagree that it would be valuable to go. I went in similar fashion when I was in the county several years ago. It is a great opportunity to really understand, learn really what's going on a national level, but also be able to meet with those representatives and help legislate. But there's going to be so much going on. I think that the bigger piece could be done here, again, going to Tallahassee. And I failed to mention when I mentioned the rate of $309 a night, those were I believe the hotel rates, doesn't include the travel to get there. So again, it definitely, it's just something right now it's not in our budget to do. So I would Commissioner, I just encourage you to focus on the annual here in Tallahassee, and even the state, work towards, state opportunity, state funding, as opposed to right now on the national level.
Yeah, I have to go there.
Right. Any other comments or questions, or with more comments, or any more questions or comments?
I do have a question.
Yes.
So you're directing Commissioner Moore to go to the spring event in Tallahassee by himself? Do I go?
So I do, and I will say, I agree with Commissioner Hill that having continuity, to have someone, like you there, you've already developed some relationships with a lot of them. So I think it's important, but I think it's also equally as important for Commissioner Moore to go. So
I think though it's on the Wednesday is our meeting here. That's the thing.
well, they need to change their spring meeting then.
It's our second meeting of that month.
It's the second meeting of the month.
Which
It's
March 25th, which would be, is that,
my calendar's turning.
so that's the beginning of it, or is that in the
It's
middle
the
middle
middle,
of it?
yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So when Commissioner Hill and I went, we just went an overnighter. We arrived there the first day, attended the meetings, and then went home.
yeah, we were trying to bring 2 people to the event for the original budget. So heroic efforts.
All right. So any
So, and the hotels have to be booked,
Yeah, I think you should both go.
and okay, and leave you guys to.
yeah, unless something comes up, we may just cancel the second meeting in March then.
Yeah, that's March 26th.
Yeah.
That's the second OPA meeting.
All right. All right, so let's do that. Go and cancel that. And you and Mr. Moore, unless the board has any
And-
objections.
Just an overnighter, just like we did before.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for going.
Yes, thank you. Item next, we have the tab 8C, the Tribal and Rural Assistance Pilot Program. Do you have any public comments regarding tab 8C.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
I've been working with just as the board representative, so I'll just report back what I observed, is that Rosanna has been working incredibly hard to prepare grant applications in concert with Kyle and Greg and others on their team. So they've all been working very hard to put these applications together. This program is competitive and it's kind of unique in that it's first come, first serve. So applicants basically log in and submit their answers, and as long as the application is deemed complete and acceptable, it's kind of like a race to the finish. So the applications have been, and I guess an initial draft has been prepared, and the two projects that we're considering submitting, you guys have seen, and that's attached to the agenda. So the first one is the CFPB office engineering, and this is just the design and engineering piece. So
We also forwarded the spreadsheet.
So if you look in that spreadsheet, it's the design and engineering for the customs and border facility. This is the rebuild. And then number two is the design and engineering for port structural repairs. So the reason that the numbers for the second item are $450,000 cost is that it's a significant project.
This grant is only for planning
Mhm.
and engineering, so there's no construction involved in this.
So if you're eligible for RAISE or PIDP or another infrastructure grant, then this probably isn't the first one to start with. But this is good for the advanced work. But we thought at first we wouldn't qualify because it's for rural communities. We're obviously not a tribal community, but we did meet the new rural community thresholds within Fernandina and Nassau County. And so what we are looking for tonight is just two resolutions, which would authorize submitting our grant applications next Tuesday. And Rosanna will be at Nassau Terminal's office with Kyle, submitting the applications online. And then we'll hope for the best, that the internet connection is stable.
And it's really, I don't know if I would call it the application. This is our expression of interest in receiving these grants. Now and yes, these are grants, so there's X amount of money. If you file on time and you meet the criteria, you'll get it. But this is just an expression of interest because the next step is to actually, and that's what I talked about before. This is before we actually be able to access this grant money would still be probably at least a year beyond that, if not a year and a half, by the time the contract get negotiated, accepted by this body, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a long process. This is just our expression of interest that we'd be interested in this money, and here's what we would spend it for.
All right, any further comments, questions, action?
So you can't submit until 10 a.m. on March 4th or 2 p.m. on March 4th. So that's when the application goes live. So that's when, and that's why I said, Roseanne's working on our top tasting skills.
And then from that date, we have 14 days to submit letters of support from other local elected officials, governing bodies.
And the resolutions.
So we have two resolutions, one for each of those requests or expressions of interest. It's not up there.
yeah, okay.
Oh.
Rough draft. The language change.
So the deadline to submit is, you said Tuesday, right? Is it fourth?
The
Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay. All right, so. And this is the first one, the CBP,
Yeah. Yeah.
office engineering, okay. So we'll take these separate. So regarding the first port project, CBP office engineering, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to that resolution.
We have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay.
So I think we should submit this. The only thing I think we need is a reference to section 9 of our charter, which authorizes us to apply for grants. So it will be chartered, and then just another whereas clause, the OPA is authorized pursuant to its charter, section 9, to seek grants. So I guess that second whereas clause, whereas OPA has the obligation. So whereas OPA has the charter authority and obligation under section 9 to seek grant funding opportunities, and we need to make that change to this one and then the other one, and that's because the legislature requires us to cite the specific charter purpose of every single thing we do. So just reference section 9 of the charter.
On the second whereas.
Yeah.
And I'm in the second.
Okay, and you'll have a second. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So going on to the second one, the port structural repairs. All right, we have a motion regarding this resolution or just comments, questions, discussion?
This one is exactly like the first one? Okay.
Rough. Very rough. It's for the port structural repairs.
I would suggest,
Yes, or comment, question?
yeah, no, second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right. So moving on to the authorization of the duly authorized representative. This is for stormwater testing, is an action item. Looks like I will be the representative. Does anybody have anything to speak on this?
Kyle, could you perhaps explain what this is? Because
And yeah, I saw that. He was the original. So now it'll be that one and the maintenance dredging, correct? For the Department, yeah, DEP.
That's separate.
Correct, but it's still, yeah. All right, so any questions or action regarding authorization of duly authorized representative regarding the stormwater testing?
How do you install that?
Is it probably?
Any further comments? We have a action on tab 8D.
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving down, very similar, Florida Department of Environmental
Can
Protection.
I just comment?
Yes.
There's a publication requirement. Does, who's, are we responsible for the publication or who's publishing? We're the respondent. So 7 days we have to publish something. Within 50 days after the effective date of the order, respondent has to publish one time only. So is that after we're voted on it tonight? When is it effective? Page 8 of 29.
Sort of,
And then the next item.
The DE Department of
this
Environmental
versus of the,
to COT. Okay. Is that it? Next item?
This is it.
no, the next item after the dredging here is the fender replacement project. It's not this. This is the
Too many documents.
consent order resolve the issues in the subject OGC file. Please review the consent order, and if you find it acceptable, sign and return the original document to this office within 15 days from the date of issuance of this letterhead. So this is made originally out to Commissioner Fullwood, who's not obviously he's not here anymore.
So it's dated October 23rd, 2024.
Yeah, so that 15 days is it's
The problem there is they send it to Mr. Fuller, Mr. Carl. And so no press. So I think they just followed up what, a week or so ago, right? So they understand why there was no response because they sent it to email addresses that are no longer active. So my recommendation would be as soon as it's signed, you get it to them because they're aware of what the delay was.
okay. And then that's what the sheet, the first page I was looking at is updated.
Right.
From Commissioner Fullwood to my name and contact.
But what's attached to it is a consent order and temporary use agreement, which is more than just an authorized.
Correct.
Rosanna, we're not on.
Yeah.
Correct. So we closed the stormwater one, then we got the next one though, which was the DEP item. And I think that's what the confusion is. So when you go down, further down the packet, then you see the cover letter, cover sheets for the agenda.
Right.
So this is a separate action item. So obviously, Patrick, you haven't reviewed this, right? Or have you?
I've seen it, but I have not. I didn't know what it was about.
So then can we do this? Can we, so we approve the stormwater with updating the contact information.
Yes.
We can go ahead and approve the DEP contact information. and then bring back this FDEP protection, this other language to the next meeting? We give time to review, or is that?
I don't think you specifically approved the contact information. I think you were approved as the authorized agent. Okay, there, it's this consent order situation. And that must have been something David was working on, because I had no specific knowledge of it.
Okay. But still, I mean, I'd like for you to look at it, review it first, before, so if we can bring this back to our next meeting.
Either that or provide conditional approval if I don't find anything that, that raises any concern that I think the board should address.
Okay.
Then give you the authority to sign subject to my approval. That way we hold up 2 weeks.
Mhm.
They only gave us 15,
Yeah, good.
15
They're
days.
That's the short of it. So,
They did,
15
but
days
they
from
only gave us
October.
15 days from October.
right.
No,
No, he understood, gave us some additional time. It was only another 15 months.
right.
Okay.
So my recommendation is if the board's directions for me to review it. If I don't have any problems with it, then the board gives the chair the authority to sign it.
Mhm. Okay. All right, for comment, action.
So the only thing I recall from what David was working on was that there were like some submerged lands that he was, right, so he was working to basically confirm OPA's use of that land that is technically, I guess, navigable waterways,
Sovereign storage lands.
sovereign.
So there's,
Yep.
So this is a use agreement, a temporary use agreement for those lands. So it should be pretty standard. I just have not taken a close look at it.
All right, do we have a motion for Patrick to review, but for conditional approval upon Patrick's approval, the
Legal review?
legal review, yes.
Yeah, I'll make a
Thank you.
motion that we approve it if Patrick gives it legal blessing.
Thank you for the legalese there. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right, tab 8F, the RFP fender replacement project. Do we have any public comments regarding tab 8F? All right, so this proposal we put out there. This is, sorry, I'm getting to the bottom. All right,
Did we do maintenance dredging? AE?
did I miss that? Sorry. It's all running together now. All right, so that was 8D. So 8E, maintenance dredging.
That's
So that was it. That's what that was.
yes.
Okay.
That's done.
Okay. So the language in the agenda was just a little off. All right. Sorry about that. Okay, so yes, that's what we just did there. So again, going back to 8F, the fender replacement project proposal. We had a few proposals come in, correct?
Yes.
Industrial company. Seacoast Inc. Right. Board comment, deliberation, action. Kyle, you have anything on this? Okay. Okay. So then it's safe to put this on the next agenda then to give time to review and come back and discuss further. Okay. All right. Rosanna, we're gonna put this back on the
Okay.
following agenda. All right, port commissioner items. Any items? We'll start with Commissioner Moore.
For your direction on that, for the green, and so-called essential email, the level of all. The ball. I feel now. That. They respond to my room, don't be
Well, thank you for looking into that. And obviously for the report, because yeah, I would agree.
I also, in looking at the, on the, the middle one, on you on what was available, what it might cost, your conference, so that didn't fly. Looks like each and all. There was. When
2027.
you
Cool.
in talking to the Congressman and the mayor, representative for the one, equal to 405. For the third down there, for the allow three lines there. Waiting for the light to get it.
I go ahead, Rosanna.
I questioned about that requirement, the ADA, and he did say it is a DOJ requirement, so
For sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, and we need to get out of it. So I agree, your comments, Commissioner Moore. I do, and I would, yeah, $4,000, sounds about right for them to do that. You know what website I like is, the Nassau Marine Terminals website and Carolina Marine Terminals website. I think it's nice. I'm not throwing anything out there. I'm just saying, hey, you got a nice website. So any other board questions, comments regarding that? I do think that's something that we need to, again, get ahead of. I will agree, especially with ADA compliance. Um, so this needs to be discussion we
Usha.
have. Yeah. So will you do that when you kind of look around, shop around some? Okay.
I'll ask the operator for their websites or
I'm sorry, Kyle. I was on it today. I know. Like you said. Yeah.
it is a nice.
All right. Good more. Is that almost like good more?
Well, again, and get on the key and you know, open that really loud. Being prepared for preparing the humble. Although it's more than just. I think it goes, need for public engagement, engagement with the business community, not happening. One thing that, they can deal with. How certainly, one. Involved, obviously, you were right. The challenge are at this particular movement. And the law. We can gain a lot.
Um, so you're kind of tiptoeing a little bit into what I had mentioned at the county commission meeting regarding goal setting. And I was actually cringed a little bit when we were talking about the second meeting in March, because that was going to be, I wanted that second meeting to be really a workshop, one to kind of focus around that, because there's no telling how long it's going to go. So when we start adding agenda items to a workshop like that, I think you can kind of go much longer than what we anticipate. I really wanted our focus to be around OPA, what we can do, what we should be doing, and even those partnerships with Economic Development Board, the county, cities, so on and so forth. So I think you're on. I mean, I agree. I think you're on the right track. It's just really trying to find time within our schedules to do that. And now with, I know you and Rosanna being out, that second meeting in March, it looks like it's getting, getting pushed back. So I want to again, especially these two items, I think that's something we need to certainly keep on the horizon. And I agree with you, and I certainly appreciate you bringing that up. If you have any idea on direction for that, we just want to kind of keep it as discussion. We do have that goal setting, whatever you want to call it, meeting or workshop. We'll certainly do that to it.
I know that. If we're doing, the next meeting, all the way back to the.
Yeah, so I got way down half. Well, like,
Yeah, great research. No, and I'm excited. I mean, I think we do need to start focusing, um, our energy in other areas as well.
I just wanted
Yes.
to echo, and tell you, Commissioner Moore, when I joined the board, I went out and tried to pound the pavement and get history and documents, and there was no central place to find everything. Rosanna's actually digitized all of our records, which we didn't even have when I first joined. We don't have searchable documents for certain things like our charter, or I forget, maybe the operating agreement. There's certain documents that are on our website that aren't searchable. So I'd love to have that capability, and I'd love to have a more up-to-date website. Back in the 40s, commissioners didn't even make a salary. They didn't have a website. They shared administrative help with the city or with private businesses. They had pretty much no budget. The only thing they did spend money on was travel. So apparently they were traveling overseas, drumming up business for the Port of Bernardino. But um, we, I think we should have that perspective to have a good historical record. And I think the ADA issue is a sleeping bomb. That if we have a claim for that, we would be fully exposed. So I think we need to prioritize that for our next meeting to figure out how to budget um, those updates to our website and make sure that we come out ahead of the ADA issue.
Mhm.
Limit what we put out there if we have to.
Yeah. All right, you have anything else, Mr. Moore?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Troll. Okay. Mr. Nelson.
Nothing that bad.
All right, wanted to, well, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Mel. What do you?
Oh, well, I was just going to add that the TPO is doing a drone flight demonstration on April 24th at 10 a.m. It's with Smart North Florida. And the TPO, they're hosting Gordon Folks, CEO of Archer First Response Systems, for an in-person demonstration of drone technology being used by fire departments and EMS to deliver defibrillators and Narcan to critical response scenarios. So they should be able to get there, like in rural parts of the county where EMTs maybe can't get there as quickly. Drone technology is being used, or if there's traffic or congestion, sometimes first responders can't get across the roads in time to get the equipment to the people who need it. So they're demonstrating this at their offices. Again, that date is April 24th, 10 a.m. to noon, at the RTMC Command Center. So if you want more information about that, I'll share this with Rosanna and she can provide it with you.
Sure. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, I just wanted to, since Kyle's here, I wanted to recognize him and thank him. We had an email, I don't know who all was on the email, but from Ms. Kosak, I believe Rosanna may have been on there as well, but regarding the trucks queuing and taking off the straps and everything, and it was a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. But you're very responsive, certainly appreciate that. I know you were kind of, I say patrolling the area, and you're gonna reach out to the brokers about that to make sure they're aware. I don't know if they're new drivers and what the issue was, but it's my understanding now it's been taken care of, it's been addressed. I know that was a big issue prior to me coming on board, prior to Savage being here, but through software and programming, everything, y'all were able to kind of get ahead of that and take care of that. So I just want to thank you for that. And since you're here, I just wanted to thank you for being so quick and responsive for that. So, All right, anything else?